Hey, Pooh,
Yes, Piglet.
this thing seems to be going on forever.
You mean the pandemic thing?
Yeah, will it ever end?
Oh, I hope so, Piglet.
I do too. I miss so much.
What do you miss?
Hugs, Pooh. I miss hugs.
Yeah, it's the one thing humans were good at. I know, Piglet. I know.
And that's a perfect depiction of where we need to start today, Sarah.
I
This
agree.
is Mary Eggleston. I'm here with Sarah Schaffner. And today we're going to talk about the elusive experience of relaxation, something that so many people pursue but find it so hard to get there. You know, the need for physical touch is enormous. It's actually the first language that we learn, and we learn it in the womb, in utero. It's the first experience we have. And when
Right.
we're newborn, I mean, it's the first language we get. It's that first experience of truly being loved. You
Right.
probably remember that with your babies, don't you, Sarah?
Yeah, and I think even though studies show that babies can feel when it's their mother that's holding them, just because
And
there's
just
that
the
love.
experience of that, I mean, it's just a powerful language. And people might remember something that was studied and discovered years ago in Romania, where they had orphans that were left in beds and not touched, they were fed but nothing more, and their
Right.
brains did not develop properly. Touch is extremely important. It's the first language we learn, and it's the last language we experience as we die. And here we are in a situation where we're being told, don't touch anybody.
Right, and I'm hearing in session all the time, like, I just wish I could give them a hug.
Yeah, I wish I
and
could
over.
hug my grandchildren.
Yes,
I wish I could hug my friend.
right.
Yeah, just the lack of touch. And so the need to figure out a way to relax in the midst of this. You know, this past week, I heard there are powerful stories, but a man that I know whose co-worker's mother died from COVID this past week, and just the heaviness of that, and then the anxiety that comes with it. Because as much as we all keep hearing, well, you know, most people aren't affected, and most people aren't, they don't get very sick, people do die from COVID-19.
Right, and it's the unknown.
Yeah.
You don't know the severity of the symptoms if you do get it, or if
You don't
someone
know
you
how
love
it'll
gets
affect
it.
you.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to roll the dice to find out. And so it just creates tremendous anxiety. I had another client this past week who said to me, you're doing so much for me in terms of helping me through this and reminding me that it will end, and reminding me to hang in there and, finding ways for me to meet my needs. And then she looked at me and she said, but who is doing this for you? I mean, we're all coming to people like you. I hope that as therapists, you're turning to each other. And it was just really such a lovely thing for her to say to me. I mean, I felt really cared for in that moment. And I did tell her that, yes, I'm talking to people like Sarah, whom I'm sitting with right now, and other therapists who we are supporting each other as we continue to look to kind of absorb the anxiety that's going on, and then not hold on to it, release it.
Right. And I've even talked a little bit about how in our meetings that it's a topic that we bring up and make sure that we are supporting each other, because this is a topic that none of us have experienced on such a widespread level.
And the need for honesty, and to feel like, I know that what's important for me is to feel like I can talk about it and not be judged, and not have somebody say, well, everybody's got it tough. Big deal. I had a teacher tell me how she expressed how hard it was for teachers, which of course it really is, and that somebody said, well, it's hard for lots of us. So why are you saying that? You're just being a big baby, this kind of stuff. And I think, well, that's not helpful.
Right, then it just dismisses everything that you're experiencing, and then you just internally, keep that in.
And the teacher isn't saying, geez, I'm the only one who has it hard. So we need to really open our minds and our hearts as people need to talk.
Right.
So the resulting anxiety, and then learning to find a pathway to relaxation within our minds, literally a neurological pathway in the brain, so that we calm our brains. You know,
So how do you create that pathway if it's not something that's already established or something? It's not a skill that you've practiced prior the
or
pandemic,
maybe you had anxious parents, and so how in the world would you know?
right?
Yeah. Well, we start with, the actual, our brains are fear-based. And the reason we know that is that our ancestors had fear-based brains, or we wouldn't be here.
Right.
Because however long ago, there was a tiger around the tree. And so you better be
Right.
on the alert, or,
Yeah.
And so we have brains that pick up on fear and hold on to it immediately. So you do not ever have to practice holding on to your fear, Sarah.
Right, right.
Your brain knows how to do
right,
that.
Right. It's created that
Yeah.
ability to.
It's so great.
Right.
So no worries there. We have
So reassured.
the two nervous. I know. We have the two nervous systems in our
Yep,
bodies:
yep.
the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, like
Yep.
whoo, and the parasympathetic, which is that more elusive nervous system.
Right.
And that's the one that we want to begin to develop more thoroughly, because it's not one that many of us have a natural tendency for. I know that I have not had a natural tendency for it, and as
Yeah.
I said last time, I've been practicing this pathway in my brain for many, many, many years.
Yeah, I know for myself too, it's something I have to be very intentional about. And I always imagine that fight or flight piece of us having a megaphone and it's just responding. And then that relaxation part that we're going to talk about today is just like this soft little whisper. And so it just gets overshadowed. And so you have to dig
Ooh,
a little
by the
bit deeper
megaphone.
to find that quiet voice that's going to lead you to that relaxation place.
One of the things we know is that if you're going to teach your brain a new thing, you have to find what that new thing is, and then you have to hold on to it for a minimum of 15 seconds. And it's the repetition of holding on to something for 15 seconds in your mind that then will establish it within your brain.
So explain that a little bit. Like, 15,
Well-
like I just think about it for 15 seconds? Like, what
Well,
do you mean?
Let's even try this.
Okay.
So I'm going to have Sarah do this, and if you'd like to, as you listen to this, that would be great. Think of a time when you felt truly loved. And close your eyes. Think of a time when you felt truly loved. And don't judge the love. If it was your cat or your dog, that doesn't matter. Your child, someone you knew, and just a moment when you felt truly loved. And allow that to really come into your mind and start to feel it warming in your whole body. Really remember. And then hold that for 15 seconds. And that's about 15 seconds. And that's how you allow that to register. And repeating that several times a day starts to rearrange the brain itself. As I said with the study with the kids in the orphanage, their brains didn't develop properly. And so you think about the need for this in the development of your brain and the stress that is created by always having that fear-based response. So what was your experience with that, Sarah?
Right. It's just when you first started it, I'm sitting here and I just could feel even the tension in my shoulders just prior from the position that I'm sitting in, and just kind of going there, just kind of like it just eased that, and it was nice. It just brought a very calming presence to that 15 seconds. I should maybe do it for like 2 minutes. But
Maybe.
but that was
But
yeah.
but to keep it very
Yeah.
simple,
Yes.
so that
Yeah.
everybody feels like you can
Right.
do this, because
Right.
you can stop. If you work at a computer screen all day, or
Yeah.
you do any number of things, you can take 15 seconds, close your eyes, and go to that place, that feeling of love,
Yeah.
and allow it to just warm you all through.
Right.
I always feel it throughout my chest and my stomach, and it begins to relax you and reroute your brain.
Right.
to be calm in the face of difficult circumstances is really what we look for as we try to develop that pathway, the parasympathetic pathway. I mean, relaxation is not something you practice in the moment of being anxious. Relaxation, as we talked about last time, is something, or meditation or mindfulness. These are things you practice when you're in more of a neutral place,
Right.
because you want it to be available to you when the anxiety appears.
So you have to create that pathway frequently before you actually need it, so that it's
Yeah.
there. Otherwise, it's if you just go to use it
Yeah, and then I
without
think
that pathway.
what people will experience, and I have experienced this in my own mind, something anxiety provoking happens, and I can feel that I can go one of two ways. I can either get just really worked up, or I can stay calm. Oh, go ahead.
So you had mentioned you can feel it in your stomach and your chest, and then you had talked about you just said that moment where you can go one direction or the other. So are there other body cues, or what are some things to pick up on to implement this relaxation?
That's
before?
the first thing, isn't it? Is always the body cue. People wait until they're really, really worked up, and then they're going to try to do, I'm going to try that breathing thing, or I'm going to try to close my eyes, I've been listening to an imagery, okay, and that, no. You have to go to the first thing that happens in your body. For me, my chest tightens.
Okay.
For other people, they can feel a tension in their neck. Some people, their stomach flips, or they can feel like just a very mild kind of headachy feeling. You have to find that body cue, or their heart speeds up.
Yep.
And at the very first nuance of that is when you implement the calming technique that you have practiced. If you take a yoga class from a really good yoga instructor, they will say to you, as you're stretching in some perhaps ridiculous position, because I can remember being in this, I can't remember the name of it, but it was really hard for me. And the yoga instructor said, focus on the parts of you that are relaxed. And so I did. And it was amazing. Suddenly it was okay that this other muscle was stretching as I focused my mind on where I was completely relaxed. Now, what's the payoff for that? When people get very upset with me, I tend to feel more and more calm. It's weird.
Right.
I have this weird reaction. When somebody's getting really, really worked up, I have this kind of, I calm. It's like that pathway has formulated in my brain. I start to look at, I feel pretty calm. Not all the time. I'm not perfect. But it's a nice thing to have,
to be able to go there.
I don't mean to say that I do this all the time, that I'm walking around. But it's really handy. I mean, I can access a calm because in yoga, you practice this. Yoga is moving meditation.
Yeah.
And so, but focusing on the parts of you that are relaxed. It's like, again, what we talked about last time. In the pandemic, focusing on the things that are okay, the things that are good.
Right.
And practice, doing that in a practiced way. Instead of going into, this is what I can't do, and I can't do this, and I don't have this. That feeds it. You don't want to feed it.
Right. And it's almost what you just talked about, that energy when somebody's getting really worked up. And I probably notice that mostly with my kids. They'll try to take you there.
Do it on a level no one else can.
Right.
They'll get you going. Did you hear that, Jeffrey and Ian?
I'm validating that this happens.
So none of this means that we don't get to grieve.
Right.
None of this means that we never get angry. I mean, all of our feelings are justified, needed, depending on the circumstances. But what it does mean is you don't want to get stuck there, and you don't want to seethe, and you don't want to become bitter. You don't want to hold on to it and have this tight feeling in your body. And there are clear studies now that this affects your health. This will raise your blood pressure. It creates digestive problems. It creates migraines. There are many studies that link it to triggering perhaps a vulnerability with cancer or other very serious health problems. So it's very real, the need to find the relaxing pathways
Yeah.
in your mind.
And relaxation is that antidote to the stress, which leads to everything that you just said.
There's a man named Andrew Weil who has done a tremendous amount of work with breathing and relaxation, and he's a Harvard-trained physician. And he said if he can get people to breathe properly and to do these things, most of their health problems will be
Would improve.
eliminated.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a really powerful statement. I
Right.
have no idea, is that really true? I don't
Right.
know. But it's, I know that it's made a difference in my own life,
Right.
and I've seen it make a difference in other people's.
Yeah, I've seen it in for myself as well, and I think that goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about you need to do this when you're in a neutral state, because I think even with people that I work with, it's that breathing doesn't work for me, or those things don't work for me. And
It
it's like,
doesn't work. It,
yeah.
it didn't do it. It didn't.
Right.
It didn't help me get to sleep.
Right, and it does work. If you're intentional about when you're doing it.
Yeah. You have to change the whole. It's kind of like, who doesn't? Well, I suppose there are some people who doesn't want to lose weight.
Right.
People say, "Well, I want to lose weight," but in order to lose weight, you have to want to live differently.
Yeah.
You have to want to change your relationship with food. You have to, people have a relationship with food, and their view, whether they consciously know it or not, is that the food does this magical thing for me. It makes me feel better, makes me feel, like
Right.
sugar makes you feel
Right,
loved,
right.
and it can numb out all kinds of feelings, that you don't want to have. So you might want to lose weight. What you have to want to do is to change your daily life, your patterns,
Yeah.
your relationship with food, your relationship with exercise. This is a similar thing. You want to relax.
Right.
And yet, in the day-to-day, you have to want to actually put the time in to develop these pathways. So let's
And-
go ahead.
Well, I just want to add on to that and say, in addition to having the want to, you also have to have the belief that you can.
That you can. Yes. Isn't that
Because-
something?
Yeah.
There are so many people who say, I can't. Oh, I just can't. This is just the way I am. I can't.
Then
And then we're done before
you
we
can't.
begin.
Right. Yeah.
But of course you can. In fact, when I worked in a treatment center, I ran a chemical dependency treatment center many years ago when I lived in the state of Washington. And I realized, as I worked with people who were in some really desperate circumstances, that I had two jobs. One was to show them there's another way to be. And that
Yeah,
one was
yeah.
easy compared to the second one. The second one was, it's available to you. And then I realized later, that's all of therapy. There is
Right.
another way to be. Well, I know, but it is available to you. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, that's not easy.
No,
to
it's
convince
hard
me
work.
it's actually
Yeah.
available to you.
Yeah.
Let's try a simple breathing thing.
Okay.
Okay, because this might help people realize that indeed it is available to
Okay,
them.
okay.
Right? And this is from Andrew Weil, although he steals everything from, I think, like the East or India or something, but that's fine.
A very cool place.
Yeah, it's a very cool place. Okay, so we're going to breathe into the count of 7,
Okay.
hold to the count of 4, and we're going to breathe out to the count of 8. And we'll do that a couple of times. And I think what you'll experience is that it relaxes you. So let's do that together. Let's breathe
Okay.
into the count of 7.
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Release to the count of 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just breathe normally. And now let's do that again. Breathe into the count of 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold 2, 3, 4. Release 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, just breathe normally. There's just something very calming about doing that kind of breathing. Another very simple thing that you can do a number of times throughout the day. Again, none of this is a rescue technique. None of this is like, too many of us in the United States, we want a pill that fixes things. That's
Right.
not at all what
Yeah.
this is.
No.
So what did you think of that breathing, Sarah?
No, that's very relaxing, and that's something that I practice daily for myself as well. And my chest is where I can feel that is paying off and that's relaxing, because it can tend to be tense and going throughout the day, don't always realize it. But when you start that breathing, you're like, oh, yeah, I did need to. I did need to.
And the
relax.
exhale of more carbon monoxide is very relaxing. When I am sometimes on the treadmill, I'm not on the treadmill as often as I wish I was, but when I am on
Me
the
neither.
treadmill, I'm holding those things where it checks
Yeah.
your heart rate.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
As I'm moving on the treadmill, I do this, I breathe out more than I breathe in. And I literally watch my heart rate go down. It's really,
Well,
I mean, that's
you
really
can
nice.
measure it, like,
yeah,
with
it's,
numbers
it's a
during
nice
it.
little measure.
Yeah.
So,
And that's just one way that, we talked about our brains are sending out these fear messages, even when there's not a real stimulant to create that fear. But with the breathing, that's one way that our bodies return that message to our brain that says, it's okay, relax, calm.
so many of these things are just simple things to begin to practice in your life. I'm going to record an imagery for the 3rd episode of our unscripted Let's Talk, and I'll be doing that today, and so that will be posted soon. And it's something that you can try, and of course, as with any technique, anything that's helpful, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, just, I guess, I don't know, turn it off.
Well, I'm excited to listen to it.
Okay, so last thoughts, Sarah. I did this to her last time. We'll see how she handles it this time.
I'm prepared this time from that
Oh.
first session. I have some thoughts. No. Just overall, just wanted to thank everyone for listening and joining us here today. This is a new podcast, so our intent is that you can find some real tangible skills that you can use to incorporate into your life to improve your mental health.
I really liked that.
Oh, good.
And so remember, live with intention, passion, and purpose. Until next time.